Hi, my name is Logan Norman, and today I will be teaching you how to find the key features of a hyperbola. Now, we're given this problem. Find the vertices, foci, and direction of opening given the equation. And we also have these different resources to help us out. Now, what are we going to do first? Well, first, I think we should identify what our variables are. We have this equation form right here that tells us what exactly each of these are. So I'm going to label them. Our h value is going to be 2. Our k value is going to be 1. Our a squared value is going to be 9. And b squared is 16. Okay, so now that we have that, what I think the easiest way to approach this problem is to figure out the direction of opening first, because that will determine which set of equations you would normally use. Now, since this x squared term, I'm going to call this all one term. I'm going to call this the L term, just because I have L as my first letter of name. So since this term is positive, that means that this is going to be a horizontal hyperbola. But if this term was negative and this was positive, then this would be a vertical hyperbola. And that would lead to a different set of equations, which I'll get into later on. Now, since we know that the direction of opening is horizontal, let me write that out. I'll just write H-O-R-I-Z. Horizontal. So now that we know that it is horizontal, we can use the equation h plus or minus a comma k to figure out what the vertices are. So now all we have to do is just plug and chug. We know that our h value is 2, and we need to find our a value, which is a squared, so what we have to do is just square root both sides to figure out what a is. And a is equal to 3 by square rooting both sides. And then we plug that in, so h, which is 2, plus or minus our a value, which we found to be 3, comma our k value, which is 1. And that's it for our vertices. And we can solve this out, figure it out what exactly these vertices are. We would get 5 comma 1, and we would also get negative 1 comma 1 for our vertices. So now that we have our vertices, let's move on to our foci. Our foci are a little bit more complicated because we have to solve for our c value, but it's still all in all pretty easy. Oops. Pretty simple in my opinion. So what we do is we have to figure out what our c value is. We already have our h, we already have our k, but we have to figure out what our c value is. So our c value equation is c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. And just plug and chug from here. We know c squared is equal to whatever our a squared is, and our a squared is 9. So 9 plus whatever our b squared is, which we found to be 16. Add them two together, we get c squared is equal to 25. And then square root both sides, and we get c is equal to 5. Now we can plug that into this equation and figure out what exactly our foci are. So our foci are our h value, which is 2, plus or minus c, which is 5. C is 5, comma our k value, which is 1. And boom, we're done. I'm going to write out what exactly I found the foci to be so that I can show you guys on Desmos real quick. The foci will be 7 comma 1, just adding and subtracting the 2. 7 comma 1 and minus 3 comma 1. That was a bad 3, but that's okay. So now if we take a look at Desmos and see what they're saying, we have the center to be at 2 comma 1, which we can find from the h comma k. That's what h comma k is. And we take a look at the k value and we figure out, oh, this k value is exactly in the middle of this hyperbola. And we can find that our vertices will also be on the k value, which is 1, like we found in our math. We find our vertices to be at negative 1 comma 1 and 5 comma 1, just like we found here. And we also said that our foci would be at 2 plus or minus 5 comma 1, which are 7 comma 1 and minus 3 comma 1. And if we take a look at the graph, boom, right there and right there. Those are two perfect matchups. From this, we know how to find the direction of opening, we know how to find the vertices, and we know how to find the foci. So we've completed this question. Ta-da! Now we gotta move on to the next question. This next question is asking us to find the vertices, foci, and direction of opening given the equation. Same thing, right? Wrong. Remember how I told you guys how if this L term, remember our L term, is negative, then it's going to be a vertical hyperbola. So now we have a whole new set of equations that we have to use to find the different values that are inside of our hyperbola. Now, if we take a look at the form, we see that it's actually pretty similar to our other equation. Our k value is still after our y and our h value is still after our x. So what I'm going to do now is just label all of our different terms so that we know exactly what is what. Our k value is going to be 2. Our b squared value is going to be 9. And our a squared value is going to be 16. A squared. And our h value is going to be 1. I'm going to just write that over here. H is equal to 1. So now from here, plug and chug once again. We see that the vertices, oh, well, actually first, let me write out, since we know that this L term is negative, I'm going to say right here that this is a vertical direction of opening. It opens up and down. Vertical. Okay, now let's find our vertices. Our equation for our vertices is h comma k plus or minus b. Now, just plug and chug once again. Our h value we found to be 1. So 1, going back to the equation, 1 comma k plus or minus b. So we know that our k value is 2. So 2 plus or minus our b value. So b squared, we need to find b, square root both sides, and you will get 3. So b is equal to 3. So 1 comma 2 plus or minus 3. And now let me write out what those points will be. So 2 plus 3 is 5, 1 comma 5 for one of our vertices. And our other vertex is at 1 comma negative 1. Okay, now that we've got our vertices, let's move on to our foci. So our foci equation is pretty similar to the last one, but instead of h plus or minus c, it's h comma k plus or minus c. So we just plug and chug once again. We have to use the equation c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared to find our c value. So let's do that real quick. We know c squared is equal to our a squared value, which is 16. So 16 plus our b squared value, which is 9. It looks like we're about to get the same c value. Okay, so add them both together. C squared is equal to 25. And we get c equal to 5. Now we can just plug and chug. Our equation says that it's h comma k plus or minus 5, so plus or minus c, sorry. So our h value, which we found to be 1, so 1 comma and then plus k plus or minus c, so our k value is 2, so 2, that was a really bad, hold on, let me rewrite this. Okay, comma 2 plus or minus our c value, which is 5. And just like that, we found our foci. And to simplify this out a little bit, so 2 plus 5 is 7. We get the point 1 comma 7, and we do 2 minus 5, we get 1 comma minus 3. Okay, now that we found all of these points on the graph, let's take a look at the graph to see how accurate we were. Let me just close all of these real quick so that we don't have to look at them while we are looking at this other hyperbola that is vertical. Now let's take a look. It is vertical. Perfect. Now we see the middle point is at x equals 1, which is our h value. And we find that our center is at 1 comma 2. Now let's take a look at our different vertices. We see 1 comma 5, that's our vertice. 1 comma minus 1, that's another vertice. If we go back to our work, we see that is exactly what we got here. 1 comma 5 and 1 comma minus 1. Now let's move on to the foci. Take a look and see that these foci match up exactly with what we said in our math here. Our foci we said are going to be 1 comma 7 and 1 comma minus 3. We take a look, foci 1 comma 7, 1 comma minus 3. Now, what you guys have to remember, I think is the most important thing, is that this, let me move up. This L term, if it's positive or negative, is the most important thing, because you have to be able to figure out which equations to use. You don't want to use the horizontal equations for a vertical hyperbola. Now, I'm going to leave you all with that. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope this video helped you figure out what you have to do.